Hello and welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. I'm your host, Whitney Allen. Today we've been talking about homelessness. I'm now joined by Michael Hemkendreis with Connections for the Homeless. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, we've been talking about homelessness today, and it really is something out there that a lot of people are facing, especially with the economy the way it is.
Absolutely.
Tell us exactly what you do, and then I'll go into how you're helping others.
Well, I'm a staff member at Connections for the Homeless. Connections for the Homeless has a couple of major components to it. One, we have Entry Point, which is primarily drop-in services where the homeless can come on certain days of the week for several hours to get a shower, to make a telephone call, to do laundry, get clothing, get food, get all the basics. And we also do case management. They can meet with a case manager, and again, our whole raison d'etre for case management is to help folks find housing.
Absolutely. So you can take almost like each person as an individual that they are.
Absolutely.
And help them eventually get back out there into society.
But Entry Point is really just one small part of what we do. We also have a program called Hilda's Place. Hilda's Place is a 20-bed shelter.
Is that where you guys originated from?
That's right. Apparently there was a woman by the name of Hilda who was a member of the Lake Street Church, who was the impetus behind getting the shelter started.
Wow.
We have 12 male beds and 8 female beds.
So it's a shelter.
So we also have a shelter, and our case management component, is very big, and we have some highly skilled people.
Absolutely.
Folks have been doing this a long time.
I want to get into that in a second, but I want to go back to the shelter aspect. I feel like sometimes as individuals that might not have been down that road of homeless, a lot of us have not been homeless that might be watching the show today. If they're in their house, the comfort of their own home, they might not really relate to what we're talking about, but it's out there, and we see these people all the time, whether we're walking down Michigan Avenue or in our cars driving around, and I feel like there is a misconception, and I just want to know, and to pick your brain, because you're working with people day in, day out in the shelter with you guys that are there. Do you see anyone that just wants to be in that situation? They want to live for free. They want to maybe not know where their next shower or food is going to come from. Do you see people that are taking advantage of that?
I get very upset even in my personal life when people say, some people just want to be homeless, right? Are there some people who would prefer to live on the street? Yes, but they are a very small percentage, and these are folks that have been homeless for a long time. But I bet you in most of those cases, there's something else going on. There's either a psychiatric disorder, there is substance abuse, there are fears of going into a shelter, there's anxiety about being part of the world again. But that's really a very small percentage.
What is the fear of going into a shelter? Because you do see that sometimes. Sometimes people are like, oh, shelters. They get really clammed up when you talk about a shelter. What is the fear?
Well, I don't think you can generalize and say there is a fear among people. I mean, the homeless are individuals like everyone else, but I can certainly tell you some of the things I've heard people say. You do have folks with mental illness who have symptoms of paranoia, who simply don't want to be around strangers. That's a big thing. Another thing is, the homeless have their own misconceptions about shelters, just like everyone else does, that they're going to be dirty, that there's bugs, that they're going to get into fights. This is a bad place to be.
And you guys keep your shelter, Hilda's Place, really clean.
We have no bugs. It's very clean.
Oh, wonderful.
No, it's a nice place to
And
stay.
there's shelters, so you guys are in Evanston,
but
there's shelters in the city. How many shelters do you know of? Are they everywhere in the city?
Chicago is very rich in shelters. I can tell you some of the big ones that we work with. There is Rest in Uptown, 941 West Lawrence, who does a wonderful job. They house 60 people every night. They have 50 more or less permanent beds for whom they call members, and 10 emergency beds, and that's done by a lottery, people coming in.
Wow.
So that's a very large shelter. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Pacific Garden Mission, who's been around for many years. Sometimes people fault Pacific Garden, saying they should be doing more case management or doing other kinds of services, but they will take anybody. If you're a gentleman and you go along with the program, anyone can go to Pacific Garden Mission anytime, as long as there's room. I mean,
and it can fill up. That's another thing.
They do fill up, especially in the wintertime. Sure.
Absolutely. Who wants to be on the cold street? And I think that's why it's perfect timing to talk about this and open up and see if there's something we can do for change. It's going
to start getting cold again.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Coming up next, guys, we're going to talk more to Connections with the Homeless. We'll be right back.
Make sure to find Weekends with Whitney on Facebook for featured content and exclusive giveaways.